When worlds get mixed up, things are going to get out of hand.
Oh, you have no idea. In 2016, Nintendo made their second greatest mistake ever and released Mario & Luigi Paper Jam. As a game by itself, it's fine. It's charming enough, funny enough, and it's got some fun gameplay ideas, and most importantly, a Year of Luigi reference. It's nothing special, but it's not bad at all. Where the mistake comes in is that it obviously attracted Paper Mario fans. There is not a segment of fans of the beloved Super Luigi series of games more passionate or more loud about what they really want. So, when this game decided to canonize the idea that, the Paper Mario games were just a completely separate continuity to regular Mario, it obviously received some strong responses. But that's the thing. Did it truly canonize that idea? Could there be evidence that Paper Mario is actually canon and the masses are simply too stupid to understand?
No.
Let's just go down the list of counter-arguments. Alright, first of all, the Paper Mario games take place inside a book. That's what Paper Jam says. Who says that this book it takes place in has to be entirely fictional? Maybe the Paper Mario books are retellings of real events that happened, and everything that happened in one universe happened in the other. Honestly, this is a pretty fun idea, and if you wanted to adopt that as your own headcanon, that's really fine. Obviously, this is opinions about Mario. Whatever you say about it is fine, obviously. But I will say people who have acted as if this is explicitly what is in the game, well, that's not really true. The game, in fact, kind of explicitly contradicts this idea, as it has Paper Peach need to be introduced to Starlo and not recognizing her, which would mean that the events of Bowser's Inside Story and Dream Team just couldn't have really happened in the Paper universe, which means they're not the exact same universe. So it doesn't really confirm that either way, and in fact explicitly says there are some differences. Also, just sort of generally, I really hope that the events of the Paper Mario games didn't happen in the universe where Mario is made out of flesh and bone, because if they did, this would be completely fucking horrifying. So, on to the next one. The star sprites and a selection of various enemies originating from the first Paper Mario game later would appear in other Mario spin-offs, and most significantly, a boss from said game, King Goomba, appeared in a mainline game, kinda. It's a remake of a mainline game, but I feel like that half counts. But either way though, surely this is a big deal and proves it has to be the same universe, right? In 1993, the cartoon The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog aired. In it, it introduced the idea of Sonic the Hedgehog loving chili dogs. This has now gone on to be one of the defining character traits of Sonic the Hedgehog, and is very much something that exists in the main continuity. A year before, in 1992, Batman the Animated Series introduced a character called Harley Quinn. She has since been put into the main continuity of the comics, and is considered on the same level as DC's three biggest characters. Would you now consider these spin-offs canon to the main continuity? Or, to swing back to Mario, would we consider Doki Doki Panic, and by extension everything that features those mascot characters, to be canon to the main Mario series? Because that's where Birdos and Shy Guys got their starts, and well, they're in a lot of main series Mario games. Hell, Chain Chomp show up in Zelda, and I don't think anyone would argue it's the same continuity as Mario. Just like how when main series Mario characters show up in the Super Smash Bros. Games, that doesn't mean that the main Mario series now shares continuity with that Toy Story ass world. When these sort of things happen, it's rarely because the creators are trying to establish some sort of connected world. 9 times out of 10, it's because either a spin-off established an idea that really caught on with the audience or the creators and they want to include it in the main continuity, or it's just cheaper and easier to do it, to reuse sprites or designs or whatever. It happens a lot more than you'd think. Now, nothing against anyone who likes putting the square peg in the round hole and trying to find a way to make all these things make sense in the same universe. I actually think that's quite fun, but I think it's worth noting, because once again, people get very, very vitriolic about this, that none of this is like conclusive. Oh, and also, before I move on to the next thing, I thought it might be worth noting that every single reference to the Paper Mario series from non-Paper Mario games only ever referenced the first Paper Mario, which I think might have something to do with how the first Paper Mario wasn't designed to be Paper Mario. It was designed to be a sequel to Super Mario RPG, and then like the aesthetic and later branding of the series sort of fell out of that, which actually feels pretty obvious when you go back and look at it, because with each Paper Mario game they become increasingly more and more about the paper aspect, with the Thousand Year Door onwards introducing all sorts of key gameplay elements that entirely depend on Mario being foldable and two-dimensional, which I personally feel is great because it gives the series more of a unique identity, but it does mean that really only the first one could happen in the regular Mario world. Now, while I don't agree with any of the points I've brought up thus far, I think they're all fair points. You know, I can see why someone would believe them even if I don't, and don't think they really hold up to much scrutiny. But I feel like a lot of the other arguments I hear, like past these two, they just sort of confuse me, if I'm being completely honest. For example, one of the ones I see very commonly is how can the characters like the two Bowsers have the exact same conversation with their respective Kameks unless they've had the exact same memories? And of course you can't have the exact same memories unless you've lived through the exact same experiences. Therefore everything that happened in one universe has to have happened in the other one. Otherwise, all of this just doesn't make any sense. I mean, even if we're discounting the Starlo scene I mentioned earlier, and also moments like how this one Toad comments on real Luigi being more capable than Paper Luigi, they literally cannot have the exact same memories, because one half of them is going to have memories of living in their normal Mushroom Kingdom and then getting flung out of it and scattered across a weird three-dimensional world. And the other half of them are going to have the memory of a bunch of weird paper doppelgangers of them just dropping on their doorstep. Also, I don't mean to be condescending, which this whole video is bordering on, I'm aware, but this take feels almost media illiterate, because this is just like a common trope used for humor, that two characters, whether they be alternate versions of the same character or just characters with similar roles or personalities, will say the same thing for the sake of comedy. I mean, are we saying all the parents in the Fairly Odd Parents are the exact same person with the exact same memories because they all say,
I'm respecting your privacy by knocking, but asserting my authority as your father by coming in anyway?
So that all sounds pretty cut and dry, which clearly means that I've now thoroughly debunked anyone who dares disagree with me, and clearly Mario and Paper Mario are completely different characters. No. Not even slightly this time, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. No one writes Paper Mario, or main series Mario, or even Rabid Universe Mario. They just write Mario. Now, I feel like I'm coming off as a little bit obtuse here, so let me give a point of comparison. Mario is very heavily influenced by Western animation, Popeye in particular, but for the sake of making this point as clear as possible, I'll use Looney Tunes. You take a character like Bugs Bunny, he's been in so many shows, shorts, and movies, and placed in so many different scenarios and time periods, none of which could even remotely fit together. However, every single one will at some point reference his catchphrases, his established character dynamics, and, of course, the Duck Season Rabbit Season short. Because no one writes their own take on Bugs Bunny. They write Bugs Bunny as a holistic character like Mario. Because whether it be the Looney Tunes show or Space Jam 2, the writers expect you to know who Bugs Bunny is, his basic tics, how he works, but also the basic setups of these interpretations doesn't exactly neatly map on to the original Bugs Bunny who first appeared almost a century ago in A Wild Hare, because they're not writing a progressed version of that original Bugs Bunny. Whenever someone writes Bugs Bunny, they write the cultural osmosis version of Bugs Bunny. Essentially, if you went up to someone on the street or your grandma and you asked them who Bugs Bunny was, they would essentially describe to you those basics that exist throughout any version of his character, and the same applies to Mario. You ask anyone about Mario, they'll go, oh, he has to save a princess who always gets captured. He's always driving around on go-karts. He used to be 8-bit and like he'd run across the screen and jump and whatever, you know? Those things exist across every interpretation of Mario. Now, that doesn't all of a sudden mean that the Mario movie can now neatly fit in the exact same world as the Mario and Rabbids games, but what it does mean is everyone is written as the exact same character, and Paper Mario is just as holistically Mario as regular Mario, and the fact that they haven't lived through the same events doesn't change that. Any interpretation of a character is made no less valid by the fact that it's not in the same continuity as the original. So, could Paper Mario be the exact same world as the original Mario series? No. I really don't think so. Does that make Paper Mario any less valid as a series? No, not at all. In fact, I'd say it makes it kind of cooler because it gets to have all its own lore and stuff. I mean, it's a shame the more recent games aren't doing that, but if the 1000 Year Door remake does well, I'm sure that will change. But also, more importantly, the real thing I am trying to get across in this video is the year of Luigi, baby. It's still going strong. Still going strong. It's been 10 years since the year of Luigi. For over a year now. We're getting to that point. It's almost over. March 18th, when the first year of Luigi ended. Year of Luigi gonna end March 18th this year. So keep Luigiing out, you know. Keep mentioning Luigi in every possible conversation. Legally marry Luigi.
I look just like Buddy Holly.